Hello, and thanks for watching. My name is Russell, and you're watching Tea and a Chit Chat Live. Now, I didn't anticipate, like when I was doing this show, that I would get so many great guests on. And obviously, given that it's been running for quite a while now, I've decided to take a break. But I have decided to end on a bang, and I have managed to get such a lovely guest onto the show. So please say hello to Eric Yurko.
Hey everyone,
Hello,
thanks
thank
for
you.
having me on.
No, absolutely my pleasure. Thank you for agreeing to this. This is actually a second attempt at this because of my bad organizational skills. So thank you for eventually agreeing to come on twice. Not once, but twice.
Oh,
Um,
totally
obviously,
fine. Scheduling during a pandemic is a little complicated, anyways.
exactly. But I do take responsibility anyway. Oh, thank you very much. We've also got Game Freak. Monique is actually joining. She's hosting us on her channel. So thank you very much for that, Monique. That's
Oh
awesome.
hey,
Yeah, Monique's a
thanks, man.
lovely fan of the show, actually. Hello, Monique. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions for Eric, and that goes for anyone who's watching, you just write them down in the chat. I will get to your questions to Eric towards the end of the show. But yes, please ask away, ask as many as you want, and it doesn't even have to be about board games. He's up for anything. The other thing I wanted to say, which is very important, being that the show is called Tea and a Chit Chat, is what tea are you drinking there?
Well, technically, I'm drinking the original tea, right? Like I like my tea so plain that I didn't even put a tea bag in it. I'm drinking the standard issue for people who have woken up with stomach pain, which is ice cold water, a couple ginger snacks, and eventually some anti-nausea tablets.
So yeah,
It's been a day.
I'm so sorry. Okay, so I've just adjusted the audio, so sorry about that. I was very loud, you were very quiet. So yeah, I should be able to hear that now. But if you are watching in the audience, please let us know if that's better. But yes, I'm really sorry that you woke up in ill in these
It's
times. That must
fine.
have been quite scary. But you seem okay. You seem okay for now, and you're
Yeah,
ready to
yeah. I'm
soldier on.
rallying. I'm rallying.
First question already. I mean, I know I saved the questions to the end, and we will to this, but Monique's just asked, how the heck did you get a perfect score on Raw and Right?
Wait, that was a perfect score.
Apparently, I haven't
Oh, I
actually played this
guess.
game.
Yeah. So the thing about roar and write is that a lot of if you get the right sequence of cards,
Yeah.
it really incentivizes rolling the same number over and over again.
Okay.
And I've been cursed with consistency. So for instance, I've been lightly banned from my Pandemic Legacy group in terms of card shuffling. Like someone takes the deck from me and shuffles it.
Oh,
Because if I shuffle the cards, you are more likely than average to get the exact same cards that you put into the deck back out, which is very bad for Pandemic,
yeah.
right?
That's like the worst possible thing you can do in a game of Pandemic.
Yes. For coup, if you put a card back into the deck, give it to me to shuffle, your odds are about 50% of me pulling the exact same card back out. And we had the set that has unique character art for everyone, so it was the exact same card.
Oh
I
wow.
don't know what I'm doing. I'm overhand shuffling. I'm bridge shuffling. I've tried varying it up. It doesn't matter. So,
That's
like for a lot of this dice rolling and roaring, right? I'll just roll and I'll have like three or four of the same number, and like so I'm doing that.
some people are cursed. I think the most famous person that I know of who is known to be like a cursed person with a dice is Will Wheaton. I think
Mhm.
he always used to bring it up on this show tabletop, but that's your thing as well now. Will Wheaton's kind of gone away. He's not really doing board game stuff. Although I just realized he was recently announced as like sort of the ambassador for
Bicycle's
somebody.
ambassador, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
big bicycle.
so I wonder if he'll be back on camera anytime soon playing games. Yeah, exactly. That's
Yes.
that's my thing. So obviously, I wanted to. We're here to talk about you, so I'll start the questions rolling. We've got a game for you later on, by the way, which very excited to challenge you on. But it's also a game that people can play along with at home. So hopefully,
Looking
you'll
forward to
you'll
it.
enjoy that. So before we get to that, obviously there are some questions. First question: you are probably one of the most sort of prolific reviewers, written reviewers I've ever seen, and just going on your website, you're over 600 reviews now. Is that? I mean, obviously, we'll talk about them a bit more in a bit. But does that are you impressed by your own ability to write that many reviews? Because that's quite phenomenal amount.
I think it's to be fair, not to be annoyingly humble, but it's very much a reflection of how much free time I have. right? So at some deep level, it's like, oh yes. So part of the reason that I could actually do that, right, was that I was very fortunate pre-pandemic to have a very good set of people available to me. So like one of my coworkers has sworn, with a couple exceptions, thanks to the magic of board games, that he'll play just about anything with me.
Yeah.
So like after work, we'll just sit down and he'll be like, "What do you got to review?" And I'm like, "Probably these like 5 or 6 titles." He's like, "I've got an hour and a half or so. Let's just spend the week like playing them and seeing how they go." And then I'm also, the nice thing about the San Francisco Bay Area is that there's a few reviewers here as well. So we used to meet up pretty frequently. So I would meet up with like Theo, Geeky Gamer Guy, or like a net of Netters Plays, and we would get through a bunch of games that way. And so the main problem right now is that it's actually so much more difficult for me to play games that's part of what's been slowing down my process, right? Is that like normally, I mean, writing 4 reviews a week is probably about the 10 to 12,000 words a week range. And my job at work has switched over to be a little bit more writing heavy, so I've been slowing down on the review side because just going from writing all day to writing all day is a lot of like screen time.
Yeah,
take a break from my eyes. Being able to play a lot less has been the real challenge. So we've been trying to figure out like complex setups. So like Suzanne and I played Sonora, the new dexterity flick and right from Pandasaurus remotely.
I tweet about that actually, how you managed to do that remotely. That was good.
Yeah, it makes sense if you like sit down, you have like if you have good bandwidth and you can get a good image.
Yeah.
Being able to like look at the board, align my board to match hers, and then just move pieces to where she's hit them. It can get a good game going back and forth, and so we've been improvising creatively. So I am pleased that I've been able to get this many reviews out, but I think at some level it's also a reflection of my appreciation for the people who have made time to play this many games with me, right? Yeah. Like no board gamer, maybe some of the solo board gamers, and we love our solo board gamers, but no board gamer exists in a vacuum, right?
Yeah, of course.
What I always tell people is the challenge of board game reviewing is like, if you're the late Roger Ebert, you can go watch a movie 3 times and be like, this movie is very bad. But if I'm playing a board game that I don't like, and I show up at a friend's game night and they're like, "Oh, hey, the reviewer brought some games. What you got for us?" And I'm like, "Something I think is not very good." It's kind of hard to tell that to them.
How do you manage that? Like, you must have to review some not very good games, but like, how do you like, because I know that speaking to other reviewers, like they say that, especially video reviewers, where they do have to put a lot of time into making stuff. Like Efka and Elaine from No Pun Included with this, the same. They don't want to spend a lot of time being negative about stuff, but obviously they still do need to play that. Like, how do you manage that? Do you have?
I could go on a pretty aggro treatise about like negative board game reviews, because there are some folks who believe that you are required to have negative reviews to give yourself some air of legitimacy, which I think that like. This is me being very, very hand-wavy about math, but I think you'll notice that for new reviewers, right? New reviewers tend to review games they already own.
Yeah.
Because you're not getting review copies. But people who buy games tend to buy games that they like.
Yeah.
So they're probably going to review games they're more excited about. So there's some selection bias there. I have some negative game reviews. There have been some games that have not sat that long. The way that I get them played is very often I have a couple friends who are on my like, I will eventually buy you dinner in appreciation for you playing some of these games with me.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, hey, so I really need to play this game. And they're like, oh, is it good? And I'm like, I really wish you hadn't asked me.
You've already agreed to it now, so so you have to play it.
I'm basically like, this is happening. This is what we're doing to me. Sometimes, I mean, like, the thing is, I'm very much I'm very positive in the way that I appreciate games. So I think that many games, if I don't particularly like them, it means that some part of whoever designed it, what they thought made the game really special to them, either I missed or it didn't resonate with me the same, right? So part of it's, when we play games, we're trying to look for what's special about it or what's unique. And sometimes it's just, you're playing this game with a bunch of your friends, having a really bad time because the game doesn't make any sense, and you're all just laughing about it.
Yeah.
At a certain point, was the game good? No. But was the experience good? Yes. And that counts for something. I wouldn't say that I'm going to give a game a better score because it unintentionally created a good experience, but yeah, I have had to definitely just show up places with a. I try not to go to board game nights. Like I try not to go to friends' board game nights
Yeah.
with a game I don't like. I
It's,
tend to do that more for like I'll call a friend up and be like, "Hey, I need to review this game. Do you mind coming over and playing it,
that's
please?"
I've always thought that it would be quite an easy draw for you to get reviews of new games because of like, the cult of the new. And I
Mm.
figured like people would, even if they don't know anything, especially if they don't know anything about it, they're just playing a new game. And that's probably good for you as well, because if you don't know if a game is any good, like, does that make you want to just like bring games that you don't really know about to the table? Then if people ask you, well, is this good? You can be like, I have no idea. And that's honest.
Well, I got a lot of thoughts about new games. So, for instance, I have coworkers who, to be perfectly fair to them, it's a perfectly reasonable take. They stopped coming to our like weekly game lunches at work because they were sick of learning new games.
Hmm.
They didn't want to like take a break from work, get lunch, and have to put a bunch of mental energy into learning something new every week. It was exhausting for them. And I think that's perfectly reasonable. There is a real challenge, especially now, around like how do we get through? We already have so much stuff that we're all trying to process collectively. Having to like process all these like new additional
Yeah.
rules and twists and mechanics is actually a pretty big cognitive load for a lot of folks. So I have found it harder. I've been talking to other folks in the review space who have also found it harder to review new games right now because there's just so much additional mental overhead that
Hmm.
people are already taking on. Like even something as simple as like let's read a new rule book, let's figure out the solo mode is actually quite challenging.
I've actually it's interesting you say that, because it was making me think like actually how I actually enjoy the learning of rules of a new game, because it's almost like a potential for a game to really sort of like, excite me. And I've actually just realized as well, when I'm watching some videos of games being played on YouTube, sometimes I'll actually watch the teach, and then basically maybe kind of lose interest halfway through the game, but really enjoy the teaching of it. So yeah, it's weird because I never really put myself in the position of people who find it draining to do that, because I'm the complete opposite. It gives me energy to learn a new game. Um,
You need to come over and teach games for me then. So I had a great friend in high school or in college. We lived together after college. He was so good at teaching games. He could teach a game perfectly. He would pick up the rule book, read it for 5 minutes, be like, "I've got it," and just flawless teach. He got married, and what can only be called a massive betrayal to me personally.
I'm sure that
The
wasn't
best man
like.
at his wedding. I think I'm allowed to say that. But and so when he moved out, I was suddenly like, "Oh, who teaches the game now?" And so now it's me.
It's fallen on you
It's
now,
terrible.
unfortunately.
I make rules mistakes. I'll forget about something because like what'll happen is when I'm like reading the rule book, I'll see a rule like, "Oh, that's a good one to remember. I'll keep that in mind." And I will keep it in mind. I'll keep it in like a little vault in the back of my mind just for me. So it'll be like, "How'd you do that?" I'm like, "Well, you're allowed to do X, Y, and Z because you did A, B, and C first." And they're like, "Well, I didn't know that." And I'm like, "How could you not know that? I knew that." And then I'm like, "Oh, I didn't word the rule out mouth you."
So I mean, I'm pretty sure we've all been there. Like, and it's the way that sometimes you try and pass it off as if, no, I did tell you that. No, I mean, how could I have known it
Yeah.
if I didn't tell it? No, but no,
There's
this.
definitely a difference between being there though and like owning a summer home there or like owning property and real estate in the there because you're there so often that like people
Yeah,
recognize you in the grocery store level of there.
I
And
think
that's
that
kind of where I'm at.
I think it just goes to show as well how important a good teacher in a game is as well. Because if you're, there's so many things you have to think about when you're, when you're teaching, and making sure that you're giving them all the right information. Which it's a crucial role, and I don't envy something. Oh, by the way, so we've had a few people joining. Emma from well, I say Netherlands, but Emza, yeah. Pointless Parrot Emma, and We're Not
Yeah.
Wizards as well. Thank you for joining. And
Yeah.
Monique said she struggles with making videos because she doesn't enjoy casting things as good or bad, except for Terraforming Mars. I can typically find something to enjoy, so that's fair enough. You know,
Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable, right? Like I this is gonna sound very hand wavy and I apologize, but I think there's something very critical about the reviewer experience that's couching it in your own experience. Right? Like, I'm not out here on top of a mountain saying Millennium Blades is the best game ever made and you should buy it.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of complex feelings about like reviewers and like purchasing, and we can talk about that later. But
Cool.
I think I tend to think more about it in terms of like, I am trying to tell you about my experience in the game and what I thought about things. Like, for instance, I tend to list out pros, mes, and cons in my reviews.
Yeah.
Those are very, very subjective, even to the point where I will freely admit that some of them are just me being pissy and nitpicking at something. Because I'm like, these cards are square, and I don't particularly like square cards. It's an ongoing struggle that I have. Like, I think that when you couch it more in your personal experience, because that's what I've been doing, it makes it easier for people to decide, not do I think this person is a good reviewer, but more, does the way this person interacts with and interfaces with a game resonate with how I interact and interface with games? So then people gravitate towards people that they tend to prefer the opinions of, or the opinions tend to resonate with them more.
Definitely.
So that's how I go about thinking of that.
Definitely, and you know, I think it's fair, and I think that's why you'll see some of the most popular reviewers, while often will pair up with having like really good critical analysis of a game, but it's more about the personality of the person reviewing, because essentially, like, I've seen people commenting on reviews that say like, usually don't like this person's games, but they'll still watch their content. Specifically talking about an individual reviewer, especially when it's like a group like the Dice Tower, for example. And I like that. I think that is true. You want to kind of find someone who's very much your, you know, kind of gamer, that plays the games and enjoys the games that you like, and then you kind of know by following them, and even them just giving like an overall view of the game, whether it's something for you or not. So we've had a few chats in the comments. Ross from More Games Please says, teaching can totally determine whether...
Hey.
Yeah, it's very nice. You're a big draw on the Twitch crowd. Lots of people from Twitter and Twitch. Teaching can totally determine whether or not someone is having a good time or not, and that's very true. Obviously, you know, a bad teach can ruin a game.
We had to essentially create a new rule that was just like, I mean, ironically, it mirrors affirmative consent. We had to basically just go around the table and be like, are you excited about playing this game right now? And if we didn't get a yes, we would play something else.
I like that. I like that. That could be useful to a lot of people, I think.
It solves a lot of problems. I think Hova, Formal Ferret, also canonizes a bit with, I'm forgetting the name of them, but they're essentially like check-in cards.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes,
I know that they use that a lot in Great Way Games to talk about how they're feeling about things. Having just a way to check in with someone and be like, how am I feeling about this? Prior to us actually playing the game is crucial, because what will end up happening is you'll be in this like weird state, right? If I'm like, oh, I'm actually not feeling the game, and then someone teaches me the game, and I'm like, oh, I actually don't want to play anymore, that's going to cause a huge problem.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be either the person who's not playing is going to feel bad. The person who taught the game is going to be like, why did I teach this game? People who are playing are like, we're going to change this up. It's better to just, before we sit down and start, be like, are you in? Are you in? Are you in? And then if everyone says, yes, I'm in, then it's like, cool, then we're good to go.
That's great. I like that. And actually, I think that Gil does not get enough credit for that sort of like very simple but very effective invention of the cards, because I think that could be quite big and very useful in game night crowds.
It's essentially like just being able to say aimlessly, oh, I'm probably not in for this game. Like, I go to Netters's all the time for game nights, and so she'll occasionally break out some like big heavy game that I'm kind of like, I'm a little bit tired from the last game we played. Is it cool if I just sit on my laptop and write a bit while y'all play this, and I'll just sit and interact and chat? And everyone's like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it
actually saves everyone a lot of trouble, because usually like I have this thing where it's like, oh, this game can be played with 5 people, but it's better at 4, and I'm like, I'm out.
This reminds me, because I work at a board game cafe, and one of the things that really frustrates me is when customers won't actually tell me when they're not interested in a game. So you kind of get a vibe for them really not kind of gelling with the game as you're kind of teaching them how to play, even though it really is a good game for them. You know, I'm biased on obviously that, but I'd recommend a game and they'll sit down and I'll start teaching them. And I sense they're not enjoying the teach, but I don't want to just say, hey guys, like, you're not enjoying, you're not really vibing with this game, are you? Let's because I can quit it. Because sometimes I'll say that, and then I'll carry on. They'll be like, no, it's fine, and I'll teach them the game. Or even if I don't, because they don't give me that sort of vibe, I teach them the game, leave, come back 5 minutes, the game's back on the shelf, and they've picked something else, and it's like, oh man, I wish you'd just tell me. I wish you'd have just told me that you didn't like the sound of the game, so those cards would be perfect.
It's essentially just like internalizing the idea that just saying, oh, this sounds like it might be really cool, but it's not what I'm feeling right now, in a blameless way, allows people to avoid. Because like when we're talking about like heavier games, right, we can be talking about games that have 30-minute setup, 30-minute like teaches. And if you're not committed to the idea of playing that game, you sit there for an hour letting everything happen, and you're like, oh, actually, I really wanted to play this other game that isn't this.
Yeah,
People are like, oh, well, I wish we had been able to establish that dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, especially in
making it cleaner helps a lot.
What was that? Sorry. I
think just making sure that you have space to like have that dialogue has helped me innumerably and in an innumerable number of times in games.
So it's wise. Like it's probably something that a lot of people watching will probably use going forward now. Like, yeah, just literally don't have to commit to a game just because you've spent 15 minutes learning it. How much time do you actually spend playing games? Like, and I know that you do it for the reviews and the website, but is it still very much something you enjoy playing, or do you get to those moments where you're like, ugh, I mean, I don't really want to play games now, but I have to because I have to review this?
I mean, it's a bit of both, right? Like, there are some times where I'll look over at the shelf and I'll feel like a little tension where I'm like, I should probably play something I haven't played yet. Or I should probably play something that I need to, like, review, or I should probably, like, hack out this thing's solo mode and see how it plays. But there are also games that I'm, like, legitimately excited about, right? So, for instance, I did a preview for The Search for Planet X. It just finished up on Kickstarter, has, like, sent out to backers and such. Renegade sent me a, like, new copy of it. It's beautiful. It looks great. Genuinely very excited to be like, oh, let me get this bad boy out of the box and see what I can do with it once I have the right number of people to like play a deduction game. Like, I'll see games with the crew. I love the crew. My current projects are, I'm working on Sherlock Holmes game, which I think just launched on Kickstarter today. My review should be up I think it launched. I have no idea what dates it is.
Don't worry, no pressure here.
It'll be up. It'll be up in a bit, and I'm going to review it a bit. It's going to be great. And then I'm working on my Sonora review, right? So I'm excited about Sonora, and I'm like looking forward to playing it. But it's also on my like review pipeline. So like that, Deep Vents from Dead Raven, all games that I'm stoked about. And then there are other games that I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I need to make sure that I also make time to play these, or like when scheduling works out. So for instance, I have a friend, and we are bound, blood oath. I'm not sure how you term it, but we've been playing all of the escape room games that I play together. Even in the pandemic, we've got a complicated system of like tripods and laptop mounts, and we've gotten something approaching a life.
Oh my god, I'm quite.
He's been very busy. I've been wanting to play Scooby-Doo Escape from the Haunted Mansion, so our schedules haven't quite aligned yet.
Oh man!
When they do, we're gonna do it.
I mean, just as a kind of mention of that game, because I saw them playing it on Board Game Geek recently with the whole crew, and it looked really good. I actually didn't watch too much of it because it looked like a game that I would want to play myself. It looks really cool, like thematic.
Looks like it's going to be really fun.
Yeah, I think you're in for a treat for that.
I'm really excited about that one, and I'm extremely excited about Scooby-Doo. Is it Betrayal? It's the Betrayal Scooby-Doo.
Yes.
The Betrayal at Mystery Mansion. I think the problem is they both have mansion in the name.
Yeah, I know the ones you mean. There's the escape room one, and then there's the Betrayal one. Yeah. I think it's called Mystery Machine.
Betrayal at Mystery Mansion.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
It's just like a great re-theme for a Scooby. A great re-theme. Yeah, no, I spend a lot of time playing games.
That's, but you still clearly still haven't lost the love for it, because you still get excited about like certain games, which is good. As a reviewer who reviews as many games as you have, I feel like that's fair. Oh, hello all. Not yet again has joined. Betrayal Scooby-Doo is what I'm most anticipating. So there we go. You're not alone in that one. That one, I'm not sure which one I'd prefer. I think I think because I didn't really have the best experience with Betrayal, even though I genuinely believe they'll do a really good job of it with the
It's
new one.
definitely a time. Like it's a thing that everyone agrees this is just gonna happen to us.
Yeah.
Whatever it does.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not necessarily meant to be like, like a purely balanced game, because that'd be very hard to do when you don't know what's coming up before. But it's about fun experience. It's kind of, related to what you said earlier on about the game not necessarily being the best, like mechanically structured, balanced game, but the experience behind it is also, just as important sometimes as the game itself. So, and I think that's very
I
much
once saw someone roll a 0 on 8 dice, so I'm not gonna come out of the woodwork and be like everything that happens in Betrayal is always fair to everyone playing.
Oh man,
But I am definitely gonna say that like I not grew up on, but I really came into my own as a board gamer on Betrayal at House of the Hill, and so I will always have a soft spot for it.
and and that wasn't you that rolled the dice as well. Interesting, saying about
Oh
you
no
having
no
bad
no!
luck.
I actually was the werewolf who turned another werewolf who was attacking a different player. She rolled a 15 on strength, and he rolled a none.
Oh my. Okay, well, so
Yeah,
maybe you're
bad day for
bad
him.
luck. Maybe you're just a bad luck charm as well.
I can only hope.
So one question I'd like to ask, I've realized is quite a nice question to ask, is maybe what's one thing about you that people might not know? Because I think you're quite you're quite, I guess, quite open in terms of feelings and thoughts on Twitter on various topics and subjects. But what's something that somebody may not know about you, even if they do follow you on Twitter?
Oh man, how embarrassing would you like to be on like a scale from like 1 to 10? I'm gonna obfuscate the details, but I can tell you a fair bit of different things. Definitely like things that I've only loosely implied that I've never actually like confirmed one way or another. Like
It's your choice, and if you want time to think about it, and I can come back to that later on, let me know.
oh no,
'Cause that's fine.
I've got a good one already.
Okay.
I had a very very intense, very bad mashup making phase in like my like late college career.
Yeah.
Just like a Fruity Loops studio, didn't know what I was doing, didn't matter what I was doing, and I made some very garbage content. I loved it. I had a great time.
When you say mashup, you're talking about music, songs, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I would say it's two songs mixed together, just kind of smushed together, but
Yeah.
really it was one song and then another very specific song that may or may not have been the Space Jam theme song, just sort of forced in there.
Oh wow.
There's a whole subreddit for it. There are some of the nicest people I've ever met on the internet. Like, you know how when you like post on Reddit, you'll occasionally get someone who like pings you and is like, "This is the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life."
Yeah.
You post your first thing on there. You've done basically no training. You don't have the right software. You post one thing on there, and someone will comment, "Wow, I really like where you're going with this. Here's a couple suggestions that I would have if you really want to make it like sound great next time. Your tempo is a little off between the two things. So if you go into your settings and you adjust the tempo down by this, I'm just like,
Oh my
a
god.
nice group of people."
You found the wholesome subreddit. Like, that's
Yeah,
impressive.
they're I think it's just because everyone their goal is to like leave this earth having mashed every song possible up with the Space Jam theme song. I've heard Space Jam mashed up with Space Jam. I've heard somebody I used to know mashed up with Space Jam. Atlantis by Death Cab for Cutie mashed up with Space
Kind of want to
Jam.
make me listen
Carry
to
On Wayward Son.
the Space Jam theme now.
Space Jam theme song is, and I'm gonna lose a couple fans here probably.
Very much doubt it.
It's pretty rough, my dude. Like it's
So you saying
slaps.
that can be found on the internet somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's,
All right.
yeah. The ones that I've worked on, the ones that I did, exist still in the ether. I have seen them recently. I actually burnt myself a few CDs before I left college, which dates me, but like whatever. And they're in my car just for whatever, I feel like haunting the person that I'm driving with. I'm like, it'd be good. We could just crack into one of these little CDs. And it's like, it's just Space Jam mashups. And I'm like, not that.
You want to basically come up with a whole album. I mean, you have now
We did.
released this on the internet, and now there will be people who spend their basically entire lives trying to hunt this down. And when they find
it's very easy to find. Like the subreddit is r/come on and slam.
Okay. Oh, that's cool.
It's a beautiful community. Just so nice.
Well, I'm
just never left the 90s. That's great.
The 90s were, I think the 90s are the runner-up of the 80s in terms of favorite decades. Let's be honest.
I will say that's probably because we're all nostalgic for the 90s now because it was basically 30 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the same way that like in the last like couple decades we've been nostalgic for the 80s and the 70s. And yeah, I think it's just like a 30-year gap.
Yeah, and like
Probably something to
I
that.
just really can't see anyone being that. Well, I certainly can't see anybody being that nostalgic for 2020 at the rate this is going. So, um, so
Yeah.
I've got more questions. Wanted to touch on the fact that you photography skills. Now we've actually got somebody else who's very skilled in photography in the chat. No, I'm going to be honest. Like your photos are amazing. Like I think you have
Yeah,
really
I
done
appreciate that.
well to give yourself a real distinct style. And obviously, somebody has actually asked a photograph related question, which I will get to towards the end of the chat anyway. But actually, we need to kind of like move on to the game in like a few minutes anyway. So anyway, but I wanted to ask, like, do you have a photography background, or was it just something you did, as a kind of necessity when reviewing board games in written form? Because you do have to have pictures.
I definitely took a photography class in college.
Okay.
I didn't fail the class. I passed it in
Okay.
sentence.
What's the
I
passing?
showed up for a midterm.
What's the passing
So
like
I took the class.
percentage or whatever that you need then?
I took the class pass fail. I got the second lowest score in the class on the midterm, and I didn't ask a lot of follow up questions.
So what
Basically, I was
happens
talking to
then?
my friend who was like a TA in the class. I was like, "Hey, I can still pass this class, right?" And she's like, "What'd you get on the midterm?" And I was like, "Well," she's like, "It's fine. I can just look it up." And so she was like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Oh, that's a terrible sound."
Oh my gosh.
You never want to hear someone say "oh" when they're looking at your midterm grade.
Hey, but you still passed.
That turned out fine. A little
But
bit.
but but
But yeah,
obviously
no,
you obviously are good. You are very good at taking photos. Like they are very good and very
yeah.
distinct and unique and
Had a lot of practice.
So
Um, yeah, it mostly strung about necessity, right? So when you're starting a like review website and you don't know basically anything about board games, you're kind of like, oh, how do I tell people like what I liked about the game? And you're like, well, you should get some pictures of it. And I'm like, okay, like I was like, I don't think I can just Google like Catan and pull the first 5 photos I see.
mhm,
I think I kind of have to take my own photos, and so I took a bunch of my own photos.
yeah.
They're not good. They were the first ones I took, and I've since gone back and done a bunch of reshoots
What for Catan?
for a bunch of the old games that I photographed. So, like reviews like 1 through like 20 ish.
Hmm.
I went back and reshot all the like cover photos for them because I was like, "Yeah, these are pretty bad, dude."
That's quite committed actually.
It's fine.
To go back, especially because you've kind of. I think some people would certainly feel tempted to be like, "What's done is done." But the fact is, you
I
got
definitely
back.
didn't do any of the other photos. I just did the like cover shots. So if you dig in on some of those reviews, you're gonna be like, "Wow, this guy knows nothing about lighting or angles."
Hey, it was sick
Yeah,
earliest
I'm
reviews that
I'm
you. Sorry, carry on.
oh yeah, I'm currently working on, so I hit a Patreon goal about like a redesign of the website. One of the things we're going to try and improve is discoverability of older content. So we're looking into all options.
Fantastic.
If that happens though, I am going to go back and reshoot some bad photos from earlier too. Just
So if you want to
cover
like
up that past.
kind of download them and keep them in the, then you've only got limited amount of time. If you don't
Pretty
mind,
rough.
if you don't mind, I'm actually going to move over to the. Thank you very much for the bits there. We're not wizards. Really appreciate it. So yeah, basically, I wanted to. We're going to move on to the game now because I feel like we've got a few audience questions, and so I'm going to give us as much time as possible to answer those. So this is the Giggle part of the show. What I'm going to do is I'm going to name. Well, I'll tell you what the game name is called. Was this review helpful? Okay, so it's a game we've played on our podcast previously, which nobody listens to. So I'll explain how the game works. Ultimately, what I've done is I've got usually go and look out on. Monique says also knows nothing about lighting and things. I'm sure that's not true. You only get better at things by doing them and practicing them. So of course you're going to start out.
I
And
was
not
gonna
be
say
good at stuff.
I just went and looked back at my first review while we were chatting, and woof.
That was Catan, right? That was
I
your
was just like,
first review.
oh, Yeah, I mean, you got to start with Catan, right?
Yeah. Yeah, true. I mean, it's the like most notorious, like, what's the word? There's a name. It's the uh begins with E. There's a word for it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Well, I'll
Like,
probably remember that
LMS?
later.
I don't know.
It's like the typical, like the primo game
Mhm.
of this hobby, basically. Anyway, yes. So the game called Was This Review Helpful? Generally, what we do is we look at a game, we look at review sites like Amazon and stuff, where they got this. Is Was this review helpful? And we take bits of those reviews. Obviously, remove any bits that are like really clearly identifying the game, like the name, for example. And then I read those bits of the reviews out. You've got 3 kind of parts to each review, so just 3 sentences or so, and then I'll give you them one at a time, and then ultimately you have to try and guess the game based on just the information that I read out to you. So does that sound simple enough?
Let's do it.
Okay, so I've got 7. I'm not sure if we'll get all 7, but let's say we'll do 5 of them, and you've got to try and just get 3 of them to win. Yeah. Oh, I'm getting my mouse, in this shot. So apologies if you see a random like mouse just moving around the screen. I'll try and avoid that. Okay, so let's start with this one. Audience, play along as well. You can just write your answers in the chat if you think you know what the game is. But let's start with the first one. Okay, so this says really friendly to new players. In fact, if you're trying to get someone into board games, this is a great place to start. It's very different from any of the classic board games. So do you want to take a guess?
I mean, my brain's saying that my brain's like leaning code names, but I'm gonna need to keep going.
So you can have a free guess after each one. You're not going to lose if you get it wrong. So do you want to say?
Then I'll throw out code names. Why not? Yeah, sure.
It's not code names. It's not code names. All right. So and again, if you're watching this at home, feel free to write it down and play along. So the next bit that we've got for you is high replayability. As you might surmise from a randomly generated board, it plays very differently every time, so you can get a lot out of the box. You can also buy expansions to further expand the game.
Dang it. Is it Catan?
It is Catan. Yeah.
I bamboozled myself.
Which is funny because you were literally just talking about the game. And
I was like, fair to me. Codenames also has a randomized board.
Okay, so there we go. 1 point on the board for you there. We'll move on to the next one. All right, so this one, the first bit. Actually, I should have said, was that review helpful then?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
I agree with the points that were made. Like, it is generally new player friendly, and it's pretty commonly thought of as, like, again, the board game. So
cool. All right, let's carry on. All right, so I almost read the name of the game out there. Did you hear that? Did you understand what I said?
No.
Okay, fine.
Heard the feet.
I meant the sentence starts with the. Anyway, the asymmetry works well with the theme and is implemented well. I wouldn't say that I have a preference between the characters, but they're very different games. I think that's really cool. I mean, it's a vague.
Asymmetry.
There's some things there that will help you get the game, but obviously.
I'm just gonna say root. Why not?
Root. Well, very good guess, because obviously the asymmetry, but it's not the right game. So we'll carry on. We'll do the next one. Again, carry on playing at home if you want. As I mentioned previously, it's a very deduction-focused game, so it causes some heavy analysis paralysis among certain players. The problem is, with enough time, you can probably logic out what choices the character has made, or you can at least narrow down the options.
Oh, I'm worried I haven't played this. Let's see, but deduction. I don't know, Scotland Yard.
It's not Scotland Yard, no. But I can see there. It's all about logic and deduction and stuff. And it is.
I'm gonna whiff this one.
Yeah, what? Sorry.
I'm gonna whiff this one. Just like winding up for it.
Okay.
Third time's the shot. Third time's the charm.
I try and make it so that the later clues are a bit easier as well. So we'll see. The art is incredible. I can't stress this enough. Each of the cards has a unique art piece that tells a story. It's really awesome. I'm half surprised there aren't prints available. It's got a nice mix of vibrance, color, and style, such that it really works well for telling the story of the game.
Oh man, I've got nothing. I'm like looking around. I'm like, okay, What do I know about board games? Answer is nothing. I played a board game in my life. Hmm.
So asymmetric game,
Asymmetric, lots of deduction,
deduction, logic,
and
very nice art.
good
That
art.
each of the cards, I think each of the cards has a unique art piece that tells a story. Is the most key thing in working you out, help you figure out this game.
This is what I get for not playing anything.
Your review site
Man.
begs to differ on that.
Oh no, have I actually played this one? Oh no. Um, I don't
You can
got it.
pass. It's fine. You still have like loads of other ones to catch up on.
I'll pass.
All right.
I'll
So
pass.
the game was not. It wasn't Villainous. It wasn't Mysterium. It was actually The Fugitive. Sorry, I'm answering.
Oh, Fugitive.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you see with the
Oh,
cards
that
telling
makes
the
sense.
story. Yeah,
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Oh, my apologies to Tim Fowers.
Don't worry, it's fine. All right, so we'll go to the next one.
Next time I see him.
So the scoring is pretty obtuse. Every person I've played it with for the first time got confused. That can be catastrophic, as unlike other games, there's no easy way to recalculate your score from scratch, since so much of it depends on your board state at placement.
Is it Azul?
It is Azul. Nice. Nice, well done.
Sorry, the exact word I used to describe the scoring in Azul is obtuse. So when I heard the scoring is obtuse, I'm just like, Azul.
Yes, Ross says Fugitive is a good game. Great art by Ryan Goldsberry. Yes, yeah, the artwork on that is amazing.
And they made an online version of it.
Oh, they did. Oh, fantastic. I know they made a code name, so I didn't know about Fugitive. That's awesome.
I think Tim pushed an online version of Fugitive a little while back.
Good for him. I think that's a great idea. Such a nice game as
well.
I
got in a huge argument with people about Azul scoring. Someone was like, it's easy. It's just like Scrabble. I'm like, but the people who I'm playing Azul with have never played Scrabble.
I don't think I don't understand that comparison, really. Like, just there's tiles in it, I think. And anyway.
Yelling at a stranger. It's Scrabble. Them. I don't know what Scrabble is. Please, my family is starving.
All right, so the next game, because we've got a couple more to get through. The art is impeccable, just an absolutely gorgeous game. Looks great on the table and makes smart use of the cards to establish a solid table presence. Now, I'll forgive that is a bit vague, but it is an amazing looking game. I agree.
Can you repeat that? My headphones just cut
sure.
out.
The art is impeccable, just an absolutely gorgeous game. Looks great on the table and makes smart use of the cards to establish a solid table presence. I think Ross will know this game, based on just what I've said.
Is it Rome?
Rome, as in the city?
Red Raven.
It is not.
Oh, AM.
It's not that game, unfortunately. We'll carry on. Under the Hood, the game's got it as well. Under the Hood, the game's got it as well. It's a slick game of blocking and resource collection that's a bit Tokaido-esque with a more palatable theme.
Oh. Game has you start moving from the. I had it and I lost it. Like it was on the tip of my tongue, and then my brain just like screamed, "The search for Planet X," and I was like, "No, why did I happen to look at the box right as I was thinking my thoughts?"
Yeah, that's it. I know that. No, do you want?
Yeah, no. I'm just gonna say The Search for Planet X.
No, unfortunately not. But it's all right. We've got one more to go. It's not too tough to learn. It's a bit heavier than your standard King Domino / Splendor style fare, but it's not much more than that. The only really tough bit strategically is positioning along the trail.
Oh, is it Parks?
It is. It is Parks.
Okay, there it is.
Not yet again, by the way.
To...
Said thought it was Wingspan because he thought I meant impeccable. Which is actually quite clever, actually.
All 4 stealth puns.
All right, should we do one more? Because you've got 3, so you've already nailed it. But we'll do one more. Let's do this one, because I can choose now. I think I'm going to do the more tough one, I think. All right, so it has what you want out of this kind of game. Great art, a clean and easy to understand rulebook, cool characters, and fantastic art. That keeps the whole thing moving and makes for a tabletop fighting game that is exciting to break out all the time.
Oh, fighting game.
Mm-hmm. I really like this game, by the way.
Oh no, that makes it worse because now I'm just hurting. I'm insulting you in your own home.
No.
Okay, I'm gonna guess Temporal Odyssey.
It is not.
Temporal
but that
Odyssey.
sounds like
I know that's wrong,
fun game. Let's go to the next
Level
one.
99.
Some of the character strengths are a bit non-obvious, which may make for some one-sided games. Not much you can do with this beyond agreeing that the first game is just going to be a learning game, and that's okay. It's just something you should be aware of before the game starts.
Santorini?
Terrain?
Santorini.
Oh, Santorini. No, but I have compared this game to Santorini in a way. So you're kind of close, but not thematically, but I see where you're going. So the last one is surprisingly low rules overhead for a strategic combat game. There are only 3 actions you can do on your turn, and one of these is play a card. It's nice that they managed to have a pretty clean action set without too much to keep track of. I'm going to say you've definitely played this game.
Oh, I know I've played it, and I can feel that in my bones. Like, I'm just like, I can feel like it's like someone's dusting in the attic, and you're like, oh, Mama's priceless vase, and they drop it on the ground, and that's basically what my brain is doing. It's just being like, no, crumbles.
It doesn't matter if you get this wrong anyway, because you've won. You've won the game. You got the 3
no,
points. So
but it's the emotional victory. I don't have any pride. I got rid of that years ago. I can't pass on the last one. That's so terrible.
It's a combat game. It's card based. It's a tabletop fighting game. It's got the best art. It's the best art in a game. I think this is certainly another game that was well up there on More Games Please best art list.
No, that makes sense. But the problem is, okay, so here's the thing. When I think about something and my brain locks onto it, even if I know it's wrong, it doesn't let me think about other things. So I have to guess Everdell, even though I know that's incorrect.
Everdell does have amazing art, but it's not a
But I'm locked
game.
On the art thing, and I will not let it go.
Everdell is amazing art, and I think it was also another one of the ones in the top 10. But unfortunately, it wasn't the right answer. The right answer was actually Unmatched. So Ross actually got that one right. I know, and the art is
looking directly at Cobble and Fog.
Oh no! I'm so jealous you have
over
that.
Here.
I'd love that game. It looks amazing. So yeah, there is
the shelf I'm looking at has Search for Planet X, Tang Garden, and then Unmatched Cobble and Fog. And I kept looking at it.
Oh man, I especially thought because it's like only 3 actions you can do on a turn. However, we will massively forgive you for not getting that because as you do play hundreds and hundreds of games, you've written hundreds and hundreds of reviews, and there was a twist with this. I knew you'd played all of these games because I was using your reviews.
The Azul thing tipped me off. I was like, wait a minute. The only person who calls it obtuse is me. I'm like, this sounds like things I said about it. I knew that.
I hope you don't take that as like a bad thing because I thought that was really good. I honestly, I would not be able to remember a review that I wrote like a month ago, and yet you've written like 600 odd reviews. So I was thinking there was a chance you might not get it, but I figured you were starting to like, you were, especially as you said obtuse, you did mention that actually.
Had a couple clues basically. So when you said, "Oh, I know you've played these games," I'm like, "My reviews." And then I like some of the word choices and the way the sentences are constructed there. I'm like, this all feels like I'm talking to some jerk. That's how I always feel about my own writing.
No.
I'm like, who is this jerk? And I'm like, oh, it's me. I know it.
I actually thought that the reviews were really good, and I enjoyed reading them. Actually, I was actually quite fun to pull out bits of the reviews where you didn't actually give too much away, which was quite fun actually. In fact,
that was a fun game.
I thought it was fun. Like I don't often get the chance to like play games with actual reviewers, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna bring back an old game. But I'm going to give him a new twist on it. So that's hopefully that was fun. Like, and you won. So you got.
Oh no, I had a blast.
Monique's saying, "How does one write?" Well, I mean, is that your question? Because I can put that to Eric if you want. Let's get to some of the audience questions actually. So earlier on in the chat, I believe we got a question from Rob. How did you get the idea for the circular pictures that you do of the components?
So I actually. A fair bit of that was about just trying to figure out a way to like display components in the way that I liked. Mm-hmm. Also try to come up with something that was fairly unique to what I was doing. So like another big, really great photographer is Uplift Andrew. So I don't think he does as much work in the photography space anymore, but he does some incredible stuff with just like arranged photos. And I love the kind of work that he was doing, but I didn't want to like just scroll up and jack someone else's swagger. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Also, to be perfectly honest, I can't do the stuff that he does. It's very impressive stuff. So I wanted something that was. I wanted a way to highlight certain aspects of the game, and I feel like a circle does a really nice thing to draw the eye towards the center. And a lot of times, putting the box in the center gives you like progression. Also, a lot of cards tend to use color progressions as a thematic conceit. So cards will have different backs that are different colors, and being able to arrange them in a sense so that the color progression is seamless in a circle is a really nice way to display the cards in a book. It's kind of how I think about how to present them. I just kind of saying this on another review a few days ago that like I kind of mentally picture the image that I want before I build the thing. So I just try to get it so it lines up with the image I already have in my head.
That's cool. I mean, they're so like stand out as well. I mean, have you ever gotten to a point where you've done a picture, but you've been do you use all of the components, or do you sometimes just leave some out? Like this is just really specific
not all
questions.
of them. That's totally fine. So like a lot of games will have upwards of like 100 cards, right? So like Millennium Blades, no one can use all the components of the photo because they'll need a telephoto lens and like a 30-yard head start. But, I try to use the ones that I think are representative of the game. So I try to make sure I have I think the term representative sample.
Yeah. Okay.
Like enough cards that I feel like I've done a good job presenting what the game is about, not necessarily feeling the need to do all of them. And then I do try to change it up. So like if I'm doing a photo of components, I try not to use the exact same components I've already used in like the featured shot.
Oh, fair enough.
That way I get to highlight different aspects of the game while still highlighting the same like general components.
So there's quite a lot of thought gone into exactly how you do that, and that's no surprise given that like it must take you so long to set those up as well. I imagine I can just see in my head like it would even bug me just one card being out of place, so you'd have to like just spend so long.
Thankfully, that's not usually a problem. Okay. But yeah, it's a good system.
I feel happy for you knowing that, actually. Ross asks, having reviewed so many titles, how do you find new ways to talk about board games that tread on similar ground? That's quite a good question, actually.
So I think it's a really fun question because, for instance, I just reviewed Cat Rescue.
Yeah.
Cat Rescue is a game from Chronicle Books, and it was already released on Kickstarter as Cat Rescue by Sunrise Tornado Game Studios a while back into the preview for it. So the question is very salient there because you're not just talking about games that tread similar ground. You're talking about two releases of the same game, generally speaking, right? Every game, the thing that I always try to think about is every game has to assert its right to exist.
That's true.
There has to be something about the game that demands this game should have been made by somebody. And I think that if you talk to a lot of designers, they're able to tell you what about the game like really asserts that.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about two games with like special editions, like okay, what about this asserts that it needs to have been made? So for Cat Rescue, some of the things are like Chronicle Books added a map. When you play, the cards are actually on a mat rather than on your table. You have to like set out a like demarcated border like you do in the Kickstarter version. There's like quality of life improvements that make it a lot more salient for the package that it's in. So I actually think here they upgraded to square cards, predicting my previous anti-square cards statement. Contain multitudes.
Did you make that happen? Was it because of your review that they did that?
No.
Oh.
Lord, no.
I would have been so impressed if that happened.
It comes down to like, I think that games and reviews are also a reflection of where you are as a reviewer when you're playing the game. The differences in my mental state determine how I process the game that I'm playing, right? So like now a lot of my pros, mes, and cons very heavily feature, can this game be played remotely? Something that hopefully in 3 years anyone's going to care about. They're going to be like, oh yeah, well, like, why would I care about this game being played remotely? I can just bring it with me to a con where we're all hanging out in person within 6 feet of each other, normal stuff.
Fingers crossed that is actually a future for us.
It's something I'm thinking about right now, right? So it earns its own context. But in regards to like thinking about games that tread similar ground, I like the compare and contrast method a fair bit. I mean, I know it's like kind of banal to say that, but being able to say there are things that are done in X game that I think Y game also does really well, or I think that I prefer the like Z game interpretation of it. So for instance, like Nabi, a game that I used to like and don't really feel that strongly or positively about anymore, is similar in some ways to the Shipwreck Arcana, a game that I love.
What was that? What was that game?
Nabi, the first one, fireworks, can't cards.
Oh yes. Sorry, I didn't catch the first bit of that.
Like a lot about the Shipwreck Arcana in terms of Hanabi. Folks that have played Hanabi before by saying, you still have the same like I'm trying to deduce what's in your hand, but there's a little bit less like process to it. So that's great for people who play Hanabi, but it's a little too inside baseball for people who haven't played Hanabi.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure that your reviews are accessible to both parties.
Yeah.
Bring up the comparison, explain why the comparison is relevant, and move on. That's how I've been doing it for a lot of those games.
Cool. So it's very so I like the fact that it does kind of boil down to like how you're feeling at the time. I also find myself thinking a lot more now about solo modes that I never would have really kind of concentrated on before. And I'm so impressed with how many games actually I have with solo modes. So if I was to ever review those games, they'd probably get bumped up a little bit just for having one. Some games still don't. Anyway, one more question before we kind of wrap it up, and this is from Fiona, the game shelf. She asks, how long does it take to take such neat photos of a game? And that's kind of an interesting one. I'm kind of curious about this myself. How long does it take you to set up these photos?
Hours, generally.
Hours?
No, it's not. I was like 2 hours is probably about the right amount for a game.
Wow, that is
not a terribly interesting answer, so I can break it out a little bit. Generally speaking, if you're going to take photos of a game for a review, you'd want to take photos of the game in process, right? So you want to like have shots of the game being played. I have very patient friends.
Yeah.
We have tried this before, and it does not work.
Okay.
You cannot sit down with your game group and be like, I'm going to take some photos while we're playing so we can have like shots of the game being played. Because as soon as someone tilts a card a little bit, you're like, hey, don't do that. You tilt it back for me. They're like, this is not fun. And so we don't do that. Live in a society. So what I'll instead do is generally take photos of the components, an arrangement photo, set the game, play a full game of it, then take photos of the game while I'm playing it.
So you do stop a real game in progress and then take it, or do you play through a game by yourself?
Latter.
Okay, fine. Oh, that's quite nice. So I was just going to say, because whenever I've had to take photos for reviews before, I've found that having to sort of rig a game that is actually legit, because I know that in like one or two occasions I've actually gone back and looked at a review and been like, no, that game state is wrong. Like I can't. That's not a legit photo. So yeah, playing through it's much better. I should say hi to
we all have some of those.
Hi to Will Cook for Board Games, who's just joined us. Unfortunately, you just caught us at the end of the interview, and that's pretty much it. We've actually running just over time, so I wanted to sort of wrap it up there. But well, thank you so much for joining and for giving us your time.
Happy to do it.
It was really worth the wait. Do you want to plug anything if people want to find your reviews, or if they want to find you on any other thing you want? How would they go about doing that?
Sure. So if you're interested in reading more written reviews, my website is what'sericplaying.com. If you're more interested in the photography side of things, I'm on Instagram at what'sericplaying, Instagram. Due to a Twitter snafu around things that are 16 characters versus a 15-character username limit, if you want to just hear me yell into the void, I'm on Twitter at what'seplaying.
What's E-playing?
Was originally thinking what's Eric playing, but I am actually not cool enough to pull that off. Sounds like your dad being like, "Oh, hey, hip cats," and just, nope. I said it out loud once, and I was like, "Ooh, no, that ain't it."
Not a good look.
Oh, very bad look.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and thank you
for having me.
Thank you so much to the audience as well. I've had a lovely time. That's going to wrap up what I'm calling season 1 of Tea and a Chit Chat. What I'm going to do is take a break for a few weeks. What this will allow me to do is kind of look and find maybe ways to make the format better. But I've really enjoyed it. I've had such a lovely list of guests, and so thank you to every single one of those. Some of whom are in the chat right now who've joined me, because that's been it's been lovely to interview many interesting people. So I'll take a few weeks break. We will be back. Maybe my sort of like board game website partner Dave will be joining me as well in the future for that. But yeah, it's been a lovely time. We will still keep doing content on Twitch here, do board game and video game playthroughs as well. But yeah, thank you so much, Eric. Sorry if you have to like suffer through that.
Thank you
like,
so much. No, I was going to say, I think you've got a great format personally. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, I'm really glad. I mean, I do love coming up with the games. Like, I like to cater the games towards the sort of person I'm interviewing. That's always been like a really fun highlight for me when doing these. But also getting to know people that I wouldn't usually get to know, such as yourself. I mean, I'm sure we'll meet at a con in the future. And like now I'll have a good reason to introduce myself. I'm like, hi, I've spoken to you before. Oh look, there's so much love in the chat as well. Thank you everybody for joining in on these lovely chats. And so that's it for me.
So I was gonna say,
yes.
If you've got any questions that you wanted to ask that you didn't get answered, feel free to just like start up a thread on Twitter, and I'll just get through them as I have time today.
Oh, that'd be lovely. Yeah, okay, I'll do
that. Go back through. Yeah.
So I'm going to upload this chat, and then I'll just post it as a thing, and then just kind of invite you to answer any more questions. So there we go. If you didn't get your question answered today, sorry about that. But yeah, you'll have a chance to, because Eric's kindly agreed to do that. So fantastic. So that's it. We'll wrap up season 1. Again, thank you to everyone that's participated, watched, enjoyed. Hopefully we'll see you again in the not too distant future. But until then, have a lovely day and enjoy games. Bye.